This is my dad, and today we're gonna talk about how he died. So, hope you guys sit back, relax, and have yourself an amazing video. Just gonna get emotional probably, but good power through. Man, here we go again. So this story starts off on a Sunday, just like today. Today is Sunday. And my mom and dad woke up and they were preparing themselves for church, so was I. And we were supposed to go to church, come back home. My mom had prepared some fries for us, so when we come home, you know, she could prepare some fries and some sausages and some custard, and then we're gonna watch Fear Factor and Sanford and Son and just have a good old jolly good Sunday. Schools were closed. It was August the 23rd, 2008. I was having the time of my life. My sister was, I think, a year old at the time. I was 9, and you know, my parents at this point were, I would say, in a really good spot, you know, after them being separated for a while. So we wake up in the morning, like I said, we prepare ourselves, we have breakfast, and then at the time, we were living in an apartment building, kind of like the one behind me, but you can't see it. If you can't, you can. If you can, you can. We were living on the 4th floor, the final last house at the top of this building. Was it the 4th or the 3rd? 1, 2, 3. I think it was the 4th or the 3rd. Don't quote me on that. So we get down the stairs, my dad carrying my sister on his shoulders, and we're just walking to church. We did not own a car, so we had to walk to church. And church was not really that far, honestly, if you think about it. I would say probably like a mile tops, maybe like a mile tops, a mile and a half maybe. And we're just walking to church as a family, you know, Christian family. And I remember, like, right after we got out of the gate of our apartment complex, my dad started saying he was feeling dizzy, which is really weird. And you know, he handed my sister to my mom, and my mom told me, "Hey, how about you go back home with your dad and just look after him," which was actually a very good decision. But now that I think about it, it actually wasn't, but it was. You'll get the story. So my dad and I, we hold hands as usual. He holds my hand and we walk home back to our apartment complex. So at the base of the stairs, he starts huffing and puffing. Like, I'm talking, he's like losing air. Like he's like, he can't breathe. It's like he's having an asthma attack. But my dad never had asthma issues at all, or any breathing problems. He was not overweight by any means. And he never had any prior health issues that I know of. So it was really weird. And he was like holding himself to the railing of the stairs and huffing. And I was like, "Dad, are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Stoic African man, you know. Yeah, you know, yeah, you know, it is what it is." So he struggles to get up these flight of stairs. There is no lift. We were broke. We were not wealthy by any means, but we had each other. You know, that's the most important thing. And you know, he struggled till we got to our door, which was on the 4th floor. That rhymed. Damn. Man, this is a very painful story to tell. Anyway, as a child, I at that time, Ben 10, like 2009, here in Africa, Ben 10 was on the rise, man. Ben 10 was the thing to watch on Sunday morning if you didn't go to church. So I just book to the living room. I take off my shoes and I just book it to the living room, going to watch Ben 10. And I switch on the telly and I'm just watching Ben 10, and then I notice my dad is taking a while. Then I hear a huge thud, boom. And I'm like, what is that? And then I just start hearing someone sneezing and gasping for air at the same time. And I remember I got off the living room, and what I saw next, just, it's so engraved in my mind. It's so burnt into my memory that sometimes when I think about it, just it traumatizes me, man. It's so freaking crazy. So I go to the door and I find my dad laying on the floor. He's like having an epileptic episode. He's like shaking, he's gasping for air, and you know, man, I'm 9 years old, I'm seeing it. I've never seen this before, and I just start screaming, help my dad, somebody help my dad. I'm crying, help my dad, please, somebody help my dad. We had a house help at the time, kind of like a housekeeper who lives with you. And she gets out. She was the only one with a phone. My dad didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have a cell phone. It was 2009 in Africa. So she was the only one who had like a little Motorola, not a smartphone. She had a little, she had a small Motorola phone. And she took it out and she starts calling my mom. And then the neighbors who were like, let's just say this is our door, right? The next door here, the next door here, let's say this is our door, and then this door is our neighbor's door. So they come out, and they were all women. So they come out and they start, you know, trying to, you know, feel his pulse. He was still breathing. He was a little bit responsive. He was looking around and everything. And I just stopped crying. And then I just stopped crying. I just started like wheezing and like, you know, putting my hand here, and just, it was a very traumatic situation. Actually, fun fact, this is the second time I'm recording this video, because the first time I cried through the entire video and I deleted the footage so no one will ever find it. I don't know, I can't even believe I'm joking about this, man, but it took me a while to get the guts and even the strength to make this video. But you know, I just felt like maybe it was gonna give me closure or something. I don't know. Let's get on with the story. So my dad is responsive. He's looking around, and you know, he's feeling like, how can I say this? He's responsive. You know, I don't know what else to say. He's responsive. And the women are like, are you good? And he's like, yeah, I'm good. And then they signal my house help, hey, come over, let's carry him and take him to the couch. And my dad hears that. He's like, no. Of course, typical stoic African man. I can do it myself. So they leave. My auntie goes back to the kitchen, and then they get back to their house. My dad is still on the floor, and then I'm just standing in front of him. The way you guys are in front of me, I'm standing in front of my dad, but he's on the floor, laying flat on the floor. And I remember the last thing my dad did to me was he signaled me like this to help him up. And I helped my dad up. And I was relieved that he was okay. He was standing on his own 2 feet. But it got worse. He fell and hit his head. Like after, how can I say this? After I pulled him up, I don't know where I got the strength from. My dad was a heavy dude. He wasn't that big, but he was, at that time, he was a little bit built. So I helped him up, and the moment he took his first step, he just fell. Like he just like fell forward, and he hit his wall, boom, on the wall. He hit his head on the wall, and he just slid with that wall all the way to the floor. I go back to a panic mode. I am screaming for help. Somebody help my dad. Somebody help my dad. Please help my dad. He's fallen again. Dad, please don't die. Dad. And I was scared that he was going to die, even as a young kid, man. And like I said, I was 9. At this point, my mom gets home, and I hope it's not raining. I can feel droplets of water. I hope it's not raining. It's gonna ruin the video. Where was I? Oh yeah. So at this point, my mom comes home and he's on the floor, and my dad is just groaning on the floor, and he's kind of like in a semi-fetal position. So my mom comes in and she hands my sister to the house help, and he's like, what's wrong, Jeff? Look at Dad, Mom, Dad is not, he's not feeling good, and he fell, and help Dad. And I remember my mom looked at me and said, it's gonna be okay, everything's gonna be okay. But I just tried to believe her. I tried to believe her, but I just couldn't, man. I really tried to believe my mom that everything was going to be okay, but I just couldn't, man. I just couldn't. I tried, but I couldn't. I remember I had this internal struggle that she was telling me everything was going to be okay, but I just felt not, damn. These are some sad ass memories, man. Things I've gone through, bro. Anyway, he's like, God has his back, and we pray a living God who's going to help him. So I remember my mom asked him, Philip, where's your hospital card? Because of insurance. And he's like, oh, in my back pocket. My mom gets it, and he signals a couple of other neighbors' men to come over, and they carry him down the stairs. And while they were carrying him, the last picture I have of my dad was him conversing. His eyes had rolled back into his head, his mouth, and he was spewing this white foam out of his mouth. And I remember just crying and screaming at the top of my lungs. Later on, my mom told me that my dad died even before he left the building. At the ground floor, because she was like on the second floor, she just heard a loud sigh, like a and that was my dad's last breath, So my uncle comes up, he had a car. He comes with his car, they put him in his car, and they're booking it to the Nairobi hospital. I remember my mom told me that on the way, they were holding hands like this, and my mom was kissing him on the cheek, telling him, Philip, hold on. We have children to raise, Philip. We have Jeff, we have Tyra, my sister. Hold on, be strong, I love you. And when they got to the hospital, my dad was dead, man. The nurse just said, he's gone on arrival. While all this was happening, my cousins came to pick me up, and they took my bike. They took me, they took me, the help, and my sister, and my bike. And that bike, my dad bought me that bike. I don't have it anymore. It was stolen. But my dad bought me that bike. It was a green bike. And we took the bike, and I was just riding it in their compound. They had a really big, they were well off. They had a really big compound, and the neighborhood was safe. So I was just riding it the whole afternoon, and we had dinner, and then my uncle and my mom arrived at around like 12 a.m., around 12 a.m. midnight. And I remember just seeing the car pull up, and I just rush outside because I thought they had my dad with me. My mom was I could just tell she had been crying very, very hard, and she was holding in this pain that I just can't even express, that I can't even fathom. She was red. My mom is a little bit light-skinned than me, but she was just red, man. And my uncle was just silent. He wasn't funny. He wasn't, calling me by my nickname or anything. It was just like he was dead, So she hugs me very tightly, and we get back to the house. And once we got back to the house, I asked Mom, "Where's Dad?" And my mom tells me, "Oh, Dad, he's just the way you left him. He hasn't improved, but he's stable." But I could tell she was lying. I could just tell when my mom lies. My mom rarely lies, but I could just tell, she's lying, because when she was saying that, I could just tell she was balancing tears, and it was hard for her, man. She just lost her husband, her first love, the man she married in front of a church. So my mom sits there and, she looks at me and she's like, "Is there something you want to ask me?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then she ushers me into one of the rooms in my cousin's house, and we sit on the bed and I ask her, "Where's Dad?" And I remember she just looks at me for like what felt like an hour. And she just tells me, "Dad is gone, Dad has passed on. We have to be strong." And, and I just started crying, dog. Like, I cried so hard. I think I passed out. I cried so hard that I passed out, because I really don't have any recollection of anything else. The only thing I think I remember, this was 15 years ago, by the way, was I said, who is going to hold me on his shoulders? Who's going to hold my hand to church? Who's gonna, I just started just saying things I was gonna miss about my dad. And I just kept on crying, and I went out of the room crying, and I, told my cousins, and they also started crying, and I cried so hard I passed out. And I remember I woke up the next morning, and I woke up crying again. And it was just a terrible, terrible day, That's the day I lost my dad, on the 23rd of August, 2009. Yeah, on a Sunday, just like today. I don't hate Sundays, honestly, Whatever happened, happened. One thing, yeah. After the burial, we came back to Nairobi, and we just tried to get on with our lives. And I remember I just felt this sadness when we were going to church, the first time we were going to church without my dad, and it just weighed so heavily on me. And I just couldn't imagine that he was gone, dog, I felt so much pain, man. Damn. Getting a little bit choked up, but we'll power through. It's about to rain. I saw this kid at church with his dad, playing around and jumping around and calling him daddy, daddy, daddy. And I realized that I'll never experience that again. My time has passed and my dad is gone. I felt so much pain that I hid myself behind this rock while we waited to get into the sermon. And I just started crying and telling Mom, why does he have his dad and I don't? Such a painful experience. I loved my dad, man. I loved my dad a lot. And I want to use this video to honor my dad somehow. His name was Philip. And I miss him a lot, especially now that I'm older. I want a man in my life to give me direction, to hold me down when I can't, to guide me. I miss my dad, dog, and if you're watching this and your dad is still alive, please call him. Take out your phone, call your dad, tell him that you love him. Tell him that you love him and you miss him, and go see your parents. If he's still alive, take a flight, take a cab, walk, go see your parents, because some of us are not fortunate to have them around. So yeah.